Hey everyone, it's Elliott, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about how I think we should each be our own favorite guitarist. Maybe not all-time favorite, but we should at the very least really enjoy our playing. Something I've seen a lot of over 17 years of teaching, from really beginner students to really advanced ones, is that guitarists and musicians in general, but here, guitar, we can be really hard on ourselves. It's never like, that one measure was a little weird. It was like, everything is garbage because of that one measure. That kind of like incredible amount of critique is way past necessary. It actually reminds me of a few things. The first being Victor Wooten's like bi-weekly clinic at Berkeley while I was there. He wasn't actually there bi-weekly, but it seemed like he was there quite often giving a clinic, which was pretty cool because I actually kind of also got to see like his clinic like that he planned out evolve over time. Like, oh, he's using that thing again. Oh, he's using that thing again. Ooh, but this thing's new. Whatever. Anyway, during one of his clinics, he mentioned how he had a lot of fake humility. He thought it was like better for whatever reason to be like, when someone say like, wow, you're so awesome, Victor Wooten, he'd be like, oh no, I'm not that good, not that good. And then one day he realized like, why am I lying? I am really good. Like, why am I being fake humble? Why am I putting myself down and not being like, thank you? I don't really know exactly where this comes from, but I have a feeling that it's at least also from the fact that we can be so hard on ourselves that it's sometimes, as ridiculous as it might sound, we can't believe that anyone would actually enjoy our playing. Also, we also don't want to be super arrogant and just be like, hi, the best guitarist in the world is here. But I've seen that way, way less than I've seen people just be way too hard on themselves. I think to some extent we can get that from actually looking at interviews with our heroes when sometimes they go, it wasn't that good. And we think they're being like really humble or something like that, or they're holding themselves to an even higher, unbelievable standard. But I think they're just being like casually critical. A lot of the times they thought they were pretty awesome players. Either they do or they did, if they're still alive or not. But they're also aware of a goal they have in the future. And so they're like, oh, this was good, but over here, this could be improving and blah, blah, blah. And they're hearing something else. It's not, oh, because of that measure, I suck. It's, ooh, that measure was interesting, but it wasn't what I wanted to hear. I will go work on that later today. And that's the sometimes subtle difference between being like fake humble or really hard on yourself and just always having goals, always having curiosities that you're trying to figure out. Sometimes those things sound the same and we think like, oh, yeah, no, I don't sound good either. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you sound good. It just probably isn't that thing that you thought it would be. It doesn't have that sparkle that you dialed in earlier. It doesn't have that, the lick that you worked on didn't quite come across, but it sounded good. It just wasn't exactly what you wanted, so go work on it at home. Something I do see often that does take me by surprise is people holding themselves to a virtuoso level standard. And again, people who just started or people who've been playing for a really long time, just holding themselves to like, well, if I'm not super shred lord whatever, then like, what am I doing? That perspective I don't quite understand. A virtuoso level ability is extraordinary. It wouldn't be extraordinary if everyone could do it. My favorite thing about virtuosity and virtuoso style players, especially someone like Yngwie or whatever, is that it only really fits in really hard music. When you're playing any other kind of style where virtuosity isn't required, weirdly you can hear a virtuoso, a legend of guitar, kind of sound, dare I say normal, but like, not so virtuosic. And how often, honestly, are we all playing virtuoso level music? It's like if you have a friend who starts going to the gym and getting in shape and you're like, hey, you're getting really good shape. And they're like, yeah, but I'm not an Olympian yet. And you're like, who? You're never gonna be, and why would you be? And what a weird metric to hold yourself to. There's actually a very recent example of an absolute virtuoso who I talk about almost every other video, Julian Lage, playing with cautious clay and sounding, besides like a few little Julianisms, especially the intro where it's like, oh yeah, that's Julian. When he goes into the rhythm playing, all of a sudden you hear these Hendrix-isms and some like standard, really nice rhythm playing. I say standard because although it's, great tone, great time, and, a beautiful feel and whatever like that, it doesn't sound like trademark Julian. A lot of what sets Julian apart is either virtuosic playing or like very, very clever, very interesting playing. And not to say his rhythm part with Cautious Clay wasn't interesting, but it was like, oh yeah, that sounds like more standard playing. Is Julian any less of a virtuoso? No, but there it's not necessary, and most of us sit in that realm, in the regular rhythm playing realm. Also, Julian nails that regular rhythm part to a degree that we should all aspire to. My favorite example of a virtuoso being like hiddenly virtuosic is another player that I bring up seemingly every other video, Eric Johnson, playing with Carole King. I'll link these videos in the description, by the way, so you can check them out for yourself. Throughout the concert, when Eric is not playing lead, you wouldn't really know it was him. My favorite part of those videos, though, is when Eric does some like long, Eric Johnson-y run in one of the solo sections, and like the, I guess, main band guitar player, the rhythm guy who's also singing everything like that, just like loses his mind in happiness or something because he's hearing some dude shred. Yeah, you got to see it for yourself. All that to say that like if these like iconic guitar players who are like instantly recognizable are not that recognizable when they're playing, more common music, then why would we expect anything else of ourselves? Basically, when we're listening back to a recording of ourselves, because we should be recording ourselves rather regularly to keep track of our progress, we should, after being a bit critical and going, my time feels a little weird here, I'll work on that, we should still go, but that's pretty good. When you're being critical of yourself, be critical, but for every critical thing, say a positive thing as well. It is pretty important, I think, to kind of protect that like childlike excitement, I guess, that we have when we get into music, when we're like, wow, isn't that cool? Oh, it's just on guitar? I can get a guitar. I could probably do those things I'm hearing. Wow, like that kind of innocence or that, childlike excitement, protect that, You need to be critical to get better, but you need to be positive and excited to get better. Nobody in the history of ever would say, yeah, I got into guitar so I could be so hard on myself that I later gave up. But I've seen it more than once. So if you're playing some blues licks and they're a little sloppier, just also remember you're hardly the first person ever to play sloppy blues licks, even among blues like heroes. And if you're playing rock and you're playing a little sloppy, just go listen to a live recording from like any era where people were getting super drunk and then playing shows, and you'll be like, oh, actually, I'm not so bad. We're all human. We all have ups and downs. We need to be a little easier on ourselves. So as soon as you can, put on a backing track and record yourself playing along with that, play solo and record that, record your next rehearsal, and listen back the way a fan would when one of their favorite artists puts out a new song. You might be a little critical, but you're also just excited to hear it. So I hope you all become one of your own favorite guitar players. Thanks very much for watching, and thanks for dropping by the channel. We're excited about guitar.